Hi, my name is Emma V. Gerstein, and I am a graduating senior theater major with a dance minor at Cedar Crest College, and this is my capstone project, Perfectly Useless Movement, the virtual exhibit. If you're watching this on my capstone website, welcome, and if you're watching it on YouTube, I encourage you to visit my capstone website. The link will be down below in the description box. So this video is going to serve two purposes. It is both my final presentation of this project from quarantine, shout out to my grading committee, and it is also a reflection on the whole process of this project from start to what we're now calling a finish during this global pandemic. So my project was originally supposed to be a site-specific production of Tom Wright's adaptation of Picnic at Hanging Rock, staged in the lobby and on the main indoor staircase of Blaney Hall, with an accompanying museum exhibit in the space to tie it all back to Cedar Crest history as a women's college that existed during the same time that Picnic at Hanging Rock is set in. That was articulate. It was going to be just the opening scene of the play, which is just the titular picnic at Hanging Rock, starting at Appleyard College, which is the fictional finishing school or ladies' college in the story. It follows through their carriage ride to the picnic grounds and then the girls' journey up the rock to when they go missing. Sorry, spoiler alert. For anyone that does not know, I have been for the past 4 years working in the Cedar Crest College Alumni Museum. I started my freshman year as an assistant curator. I didn't really have an official title then, and I have moved my way up to museum supervisor and head curator, and it's been a dream. But a large part of this production slash exhibit in the space was pictures of Cedar Crest students from the turn of the century through, I want to say about the 1920s. I don't have remote access to our archives, so I wasn't able to get all the information for these images, but images of Cedar Crest students in Blaney Hall throughout time. My main inspiration for the project came when I was reading through the script for the first time, and one of those pictures popped into my head, and it was the main picture on the website. It's the first picture on the homepage, and it's all these students on the staircase it was the administration building then, we now know it as Blaney Hall, but they're on the stairs in their school uniforms, climbing up, and the imagery in the script of the girls climbing up clicked in my brain, and I said, oh my god, that could be a project. I was having a really fun time working on the project while we were still on campus. The cast is made up of my friends because that's what you do when you do theater at a small college, and also when your friends are as great as mine. There's actually a picture of a bunch of them there on my bookshelf. I put that there on purpose. And it was just such an interesting amalgamation of so many of the things that I've worked on in my time at Cedar Crest. My two main passions are theater and the museum, so working on creating such a unique, immersive theatrical experience in this space that is like arguably the heart of campus. You know, Blaney Hall is right in the center. It's the landmark we give when telling food delivery people how to get to our dorm room. And being able to combine the museum with that to design the exhibit, to put it in the lobby, in the space with the actresses, and create this whole effect of the ghosts of history and the story coming to life. It was just incredible, and really, I mean, I don't know how many other ways to say how much I loved working on it. This project has been my baby, not just because it is my capstone, but because it's just something that I really care about. It's just such a shame that it couldn't be completed as intended because the semester took a weird turn. I think one of the reasons that I really enjoyed working on this is that it's so different from anything I've done before. Like, it was a true challenge to myself, but also a way to just play and experiment and try weird things, because the whole concept is weird. I mean, doing a play in a lobby at night, It's actually not that weird considering Cedar Crest's history. The steps of Blaney, both outside and inside, have been used for Greek plays in the past. We haven't done those in a while, but there's pictures of that on the website. But in terms of directing work I've done and shows I've been in, they've all been in like a traditional proscenium space. Well, that's not true. With the exception of our sister stage productions, which are done in the Little Theater on campus, which is part classroom, part theater. It's a strange space, but it's still closer to a traditional theater than the lobby of the administration building is. Even though it's the first thing I've directed in such a non-traditional space, it's not fully my first experience with the idea of immersive theater. The first full-length play that I ever directed was one of our sister stage productions in the Little Theater, and that was 5 Lesbians Eating a Quiche, which involved the audience by making them a part of the cast, as it were, because the premise of the play is that it's an annual meeting of the Susan B. Anthony Society for the Sisters of Gertrude Stein. There's a theme song. So the audience in pre-show gets assigned name tags with 1950s housewives names on them. There was one unlucky audience member that got repeatedly addressed in the front row who got the name Marjorie, and that was part of the script. A lot of the script addressed the audience as a whole, and there was a level of participation that you don't find in, I would say, the majority of plays. Because the space in the Little Theater is a little weird and there was that audience participation aspect, like no fourth wall, we leaned into it, and the way I blocked the show utilized not just the front part of the room with the little tiny stage, it utilized the entire room, so including the aisle in the middle and the little space at the top of the room behind all the raked seating, and the hallway and the doors for entrances that had to be used because there are no wings in that space, and like the little entryway vestibule at the top of the theater with windows in the doors. 5 Lesbians Eating a Quiche took place essentially in the bomb shelter of a community center or something. Because of that level of audience immersion, we just leaned into it and said we're not going to treat it like a theatrical space at all. This is the bomb shelter now. So I think having student-run productions like that, Roxanne Amico kind of advises the whole sister stage program, company, I guess you could call it. We do the shows with an idea grant from the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, but student directed, student cast, we have students doing lighting and sound for it, and it's a really good learning experience outside of our main stage productions and class opportunities. I learned a lot getting to direct the shows that I've directed for Sister Stage. It's been like a playground to figure out who I am as a director and learn how to problem solve and troubleshoot on my feet. And also a really big part of it was the collaborative nature of it. I'm of the belief that theater should almost always be a collaborative experience, and maybe it's because the cast was all people I was friends with, but I found it easier to work with everyone and craft the show together with the cast if it was sort of a creative give and take in terms of character and interpretation and even blocking. Like if I suggest something and an actor feels like they want to try something, I'm always open to that. That spirit of collaboration definitely carried over into my Picnic at Hanging Rock project. As much as it's my production, it is also undoubtedly my wonderful cast and crew's production. Everyone felt open to make suggestions and just experiment, and there was so much just trust me, try this, and it didn't always work out well. There was a lot of okay, that didn't work, let's try something else. But I don't think something as unique as this project ever could have worked without the input from the people that were meant to be performing it. I am so absolutely heartbroken that the performance and the rest of our semester and a lot of day-to-day life around the world has been canceled by the coronavirus pandemic. No one could have anticipated the semester ending like this, but we do what we can and we keep going. Ooh, I'm starting to get emotional talking about this. I was not expecting that. Wow! So in the same spirit of creativity and problem solving and collaboration, once classes moved online, so did my project. We actually found out about the cancellation of the rest of the semester about a week after leaving campus, and it was literally 5 minutes before our video conference with the whole senior performing arts capstone group that we got the email from President Meade, which was disheartening to say the least, but the timing also worked out that right after we found out our projects were not happening as we originally planned them, we jumped right into a meeting with our class advisor, Kevin Gallagher, and we immediately began to make new plans. I am always one for brainstorming. I actually have this little blue notebook that has been my notebook for this entire project from the start. I wrote my original cast list in here just while I was reading the play. Before even fully starting the project, I read it and I knew who I wanted to play who, so I wrote it down. But while my other classmates were talking, I was scribbling away in this notebook, and by the time Kevin said, "Emma, thoughts?" I had an entire new version of my project brainstormed and more or less outlined within about 20 minutes, which was good for me because it saved me a lot of time, and I was able to more or less get to work on the online transition right away. So inspired by one of the common quarantine activities that the internet has come up with, I decided to turn my immersive site-specific performance into a virtual museum exhibit, like so many art and culture museums all over the world are doing on their websites. So that website consists of the homepage, which is the exhibit, and it has all of the photos that I was planning to include in the exhibit. It also has some renderings of the costume design that we were gonna have. I did 2 renderings of different parts of the scene, and then there is a whole lot of writing accompanying the exhibit and also the rest of the academic project part of it, explaining everything. I have a little cast and crew page that serves as our digital program. I have the concept and inspiration page, which has information pulled straight from my original project proposal from the very start of all this. There's the rehearsal process page, which documents all of the super fun and interesting goings-on that were happening on campus. There is a disruption page explaining the whole situation with the global pandemic and quarantine and getting sent home and having my life turned upside down in the span of like 2 weeks. And there is the reflection page where this video is going to live. Even though there is now no longer a performance, I was able to keep my cast and crew involved by getting reflection videos from them talking about their experience and the process and just what it was like. I think my favorite part of the project from when I was still on campus was the very first time that we had a rehearsal in the space. We'd been working in the fall semester just on phrasing and intonation and finding separate character voices for the narrators and the characters in the story. The script is kind of an ensemble, abstract thing, which you can read all about on my website. It's better explained, written out, because my written expression is a lot more fluid than this video. But we spent the fall semester just working on the sound of the play. And it wasn't until the spring semester that we had our first rehearsal in the lobby of Blaney at like 10 o'clock at night, because it's extracurricular, so we have to work around classes and other rehearsal schedules. We had Into the Woods in the beginning of the semester, so that took up a big chunk of our rehearsal time. So we would rehearse from like 10 to midnight in reduced lighting for the nighttime, and it was really cool. And that first rehearsal, I didn't work on starting staging besides giving actresses their places to enter from on their first line. So the audience would be standing in the lobby looking at the museum exhibit, and then there would be side hallway lights turning off with a loud boom from the stage manager and assistant stage manager stomping on the floor, and that would cue the first actress to enter the space and begin her first line. And then all of the other actresses would enter on their first lines. So I assigned those spaces, and I said, feel free to move around, play with the space, see what you can come up with. And it was just the most incredible thing. It was like a moment of, this is going to work. Because even when things are going well, I personally always doubt myself. I have so much anxiety and perfectionism. So there's always that little voice at the back of my mind saying, this is a train wreck. It's gonna be a mess. But that first night in the space, I could tell that it was all coming together. And it really did, because our last rehearsal was 2 nights before we found out that classes were going online, and we had just finished staging. And it really did come together. I hope at some point in the future, somehow, we can do this. I'm not sure if that will ever happen, but it's good to be optimistic, right? In a similar way, my favorite part of the new online version of the project has been the ambient soundscape I created for the website, because it was such, as an immersive theater experience, it was very reliant on sensory input, so you'd be hearing sound from all around you. When my advisor emailed me a song as a suggestion that I come up with a soundtrack for the website, it was like a light bulb moment, and I realized that the virtual exhibit would really fall flat of capturing what I was trying to do with the project, because it would just be a singular sensory experience. You're just looking at something, and that is so far removed from what it was originally supposed to be. So when my advisor sent me that song, I thought, I can make not just a soundtrack, but a soundscape. I can try and tell the story of the play through sound. Now, I've never taken a sound design class, but I do have GarageBand, and my father is an IT guy. So I went on YouTube and looked up Australian outdoor sounds and downloaded an hour-long video to use as the base sound. And I went through the script and looked for key moments and descriptions of things to try and boil it all down to something ambient. There's no words in it. So it like starts with the carriage ride and girls talking and laughter, and then there's some nice music as we get to the picnic, and then the sound of leaves crunching, which begins the girls leaving the picnic to go up the rock, and then it becomes frenzied, and there's running and footsteps and hyperventilating. And it was just a really like interesting experiment, I guess I would say, because it's a way I've never tried to tell a story before, with kind of the exception of editing my music for my Dance Works piece this past fall, which started with train station noises and then led in to music and then ended with more train noises. So it wasn't something I was totally new to, but it was a lot more detailed, and my computer almost crashed when I downloaded 20 minutes of cicada screaming. But I think that having that second sensory layer to the online experience really heightens it from being just something you look at. I think it keeps the aspect of the story there versus just being pictures of Cedar Crest. My least favorite part of the process on campus was trying to figure out how to block not just in the round, but also with a very large table in the middle that we had been told could not be moved. The table in the lobby of Blaney is like probably 6 feet across, perfect for social distancing, 6 feet apart. It's like solid wood and it's huge, and it was good for the exhibit part because I could use it as a display space, but then I also had to think about you can't have anything going up too high because you don't want to ruin sight lines. And then another part of it was the productions in the round, but I didn't want my audience members to have to be constantly spinning around. So while I was working on blocking, I had to remind myself, okay, where were we just standing? Is it too far away from where we just turned to? And I didn't want to have too much circling going on because then I feel like it would get old really quick and be like, all right, what's the point here? Having no traditional set and trying to determine what zones of the space would function as what. Did I want anything to be a set space? It turned out I didn't, and we just used all the corners of the room in turn. It was a good process because I learned a lot from it, but it was also really stressful. And it was the kind of thing where we'd block a part of the scene and I'd be like, okay, let's run that. And then I'd watch it and I would be like, I hate everything we've just spent 45 minutes working on. Good to know. And there was also the issue of the acoustics in the lobby were so cool and creepy and ghostly, and really an essential part of making it feel like ghosts were coming alive and walking the halls at night, because everything was bouncing around and sounded distorted. But then there came a point where it was too loud and too echoey and things got garbled. So there was definitely like a learning curve and finding that balance, and I think we reached it by our final rehearsal. My least favorite part of the online version of the project is the fact that I don't have all of the information attached to the images I used in the exhibit, because had I been on campus, I would have had access to the museum and I would have had the information of when the photo was taken, usually who's in the photo, what year they graduated, when the photo was donated and by who, all of this acquisition information that we have on file in the museum that I wasn't anticipating the need to save elsewhere. I'm lucky that I had the pictures on my phone and my computer before leaving campus, otherwise I don't know what I would have done. Certainly not an online exhibit, because there wouldn't have been much to look at. As a curator and the museum supervisor, it kind of pains me to put this together as an exhibit and have no information. Not no information, but not a lot of information, because it just feels like a discredit to Cedar Crest history, because it's visual history. But then if you don't know who or what or when, it's kind of just halfway history, if that makes sense. I love alliteration. What information I do have, I did try to include. And fingers crossed, when we are able to return to campus at some point, it will be after I have graduated and have become an alum myself. Hopefully I will still be allowed to access the museum even if just for one day, so I can get all that information and update the website and make it like a real online exhibit. And I hope that my project can sort of stand as a permanent online exhibit for the Marshall Lynn Walsh Alumni Museum, because besides the Instagram account that I run for the museum, there is no online presence, there's no online archive. So it would be a way to share more of Cedar Crest's history with the world and also update the museum a little in terms of technology. Without the original performance happening, I don't know if there's anything I would have changed about it. I like to think that I would have been happy with how it turned out, but you know, the self-critical part is always like, ah, should have done that differently. But I think I'm really proud of not only the concept, but I'm proud of myself for what I made of the process and my consistency and commitment to making it work. I feel like even though it has changed, just being able to document the work that went into it, it makes it a really good capstone and final representation of what I have learned and been able to apply in my theater education at Cedar Crest College over the past 4 years. What I would definitely change is the global pandemic and quarantine, but I feel like there's still a silver lining in it because now I get to share my project and my idea with more people. The performance on campus would have been limited to a very small audience because the space isn't huge and the actresses still need to be able to have space to move around, and we didn't want too many bodies in the space changing the acoustics further. It would have been a one-time performance that probably 10 people would have seen. And now I have this portfolio piece and it's online ostensibly forever, and I can share it with hundreds of people if they're interested. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. Definitely have to keep reminding myself about that because this is not how I wanted my senior year to end, but I am determined to make the most of it no matter what. So I hope that you can enjoy the online exhibit. Click around, check out all the pages on the site. If you think a friend would like it, it would not be bad to share it with them. I would love feedback. If you're viewing this video on YouTube, there's the comment section. And I believe that there's a comment feature on WordPress. If not, there is a link to my personal website on the exhibit page and you can message me there. Thank you for watching this video and checking out the exhibit. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.